Alright, good afternoon everyone, welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. Hopefully my mic is on, let me check. Yes, perfect. Hello, welcome back to Crypto Warehouse, welcome back to a chart stream. Okay, today's an exciting day today. We have quite a bit to talk about. Things have happened. Again, as I always say, we've got streams where I say new things and streams where we look all excitedly at things which have already happened. And today is one of those streams. Today we are looking back on things we've talked about, and it's got, it's been pretty exciting. You might be able to see how exciting it is and has been over I'll say the past 24 hours. It's been, it's been a while. Over basically, the past 24 hours, I should probably say, this period. I don't know exactly how many days it's been or how long exactly the period's been, but we've come down a slight bit in the market, if you will. So you can clearly see total liquidations has been about 850 million, which is quite high. quite high liquidation rate on 24-hour. Longs is mainly where it's at, which makes sense. Obviously, we'll get to it in a second. Is around about 800 million, which is quite a hefty amount of liquidations. So let's actually, I need to start my timer. Amateur, I need to start my timer. So hopefully you're all doing well, I should say, before we get into the meat of this stream. Hopefully you're all doing well. Hopefully you've had a good, good time. Hopefully you had a good weekend as well, more importantly. And you have energy and revitalized for the coming week, I suppose. Yeah, let me go check the chat. Also, this stream, it was set not for today, it was set a day behind, so I don't know how the YouTube is gonna push the video out, or the stream out, I should say. I think the Binance Square, I think it was set up for today, so I think we're fine, but on YouTube it was set a day before on accident, so it's it probably has got as many people in it as usual because obviously the notifications, but nonetheless, hello to everyone on YouTube, hello to everyone on Square as well. Hopefully you guys have been well, as I've already said. Hopefully you haven't been hurt by the recent move in the price, and hopefully you're doing well. Let me go to YouTube. I can't scroll, but I know Kishan, KB, and Danny are here. Welcome to you guys. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Kishan as well. Obviously, donation, really do appreciate it. You don't have to donate. Obviously, that's I know there's some people who push really hard for donations. It's if you want to do it, obviously you can do it. If not, I'm still going to be here. So thank you so much. Anyways, going into the actual economic calendar, I just want to quickly glance at it. We've looked at this already. 800 million longs. Basic takeaway from that is most of the longs got liquidated, and you can maybe assume if you haven't looked at the charts yet, how longs get liquidated. Well, we're gonna have to go down, aren't we? Anyway, economic calendar. So just looking at the coming week, basically. Wait a minute, yeah, this is today. Good, I'm making sure it's today. Just making sure this is proper data. This is just recent, so this is also going into next week as well. I believe obviously by this Monday. Not really too much going on. Not really much going on. I mean, there's maybe this down here, I suppose, on 28th of January. Could be something. But other than that, nothing really. But that's next week. Oh, that's next week. This is obviously coming into... We're already in a new week now, but it's next week. On the 28th. So that's not really going to happen anytime soon. So we can ignore that and move on. Going to the actual prices now. So we can see we're about 93k. You can't see on the side, but I can, because obviously my bar takes up the space. But there is a lovely little graph. If you've ever been on CoinMarketCap, you know this lovely little graph on the right hand side, which shows you just a line of how we're moving, with a real nice move upwards, real nice knot movement, and then we have this really sharp move down, which you might have felt from your email notifications if you were in a trade and you got liquidated. You might know what's happening. Obviously, you can see on the chart, or you can see on the screen, I should say. We have 93k. We have obviously come down quite heavily, which is something we were talking about last stream to happen from where we were, coming down towards some of the areas we have talked about 92 something-ish. Basically where we are right now, which obviously we'll get to when we get there. So 2.5% down, 2.56% down on the 24-hour. Very hefty liquidations, or very hefty move down to cause all these liquidations. Obviously on the 7-day trailing, about 1.7%. 1.8% up. So obviously, we still come from a point lower than 92, 93k, but still pretty much have recovered that trailing 7-day move from basically last week. Obviously, it's Monday today. Ethereum 3 to 15, 4.4% down 24-hour. I'm very excited to see. I've mainly just been watching Bitcoin, keeping an eye on Bitcoin, because that was kind of mainly where we had our main TA or price action, which I wanted to really look at. Obviously, Ethereum. 4.4, I haven't really looked at it too much, or Solana, about 6% down as well for Solana. I haven't really looked too much at them, so we'll obviously look at it live and we'll see what we're talking about. We'll see what happens when we get there live. So that's up 3.8%, so it's still not as down as we were going from last Monday to now, but still pretty hefty down. I'm really going to focus on the 24-hour from now because that's what really matters. So 6% down Solana, $134 here as well. So pretty big move downwards. We obviously have SERP and Crow. Looking at those, we've wanted SERP to come down, or we've been coming down for SERP. We've wanted to continue to come down. Today is just another good scenario for it to continue doing so. So obviously going to the 4-hour, we can still see us having this nice move down so far. Obviously this is kind of a few days ago, to be fair. SERP obviously, isn't as muchly is not a word. Isn't as closely correlated with everything else, I should probably say, but we still can see we're coming down, and we've been coming down, and we probably will continue to do so, as we've talked about. We'll obviously get to it. SERP, the main thing we've been talking about, it's something which is going to happen over a long period of time. So when we go to it later on in the stream, I'm just going to be quickly glancing at it. Same with Crow, to be fair. But with Crow is a different story because we are actually at our area where we've wanted to come to for a while now. Obviously, if I go to about the 4 hour, we can see we've been talking about this area here. You can see we kind of came to it a tiny bit lower, actually, from about 9.3 or whatever, but this gap of green, basically, if we go to the higher time frames and like the daily, is a big gap which we were kind of targeting. This whole area here, about 0.95 or 9.5 is mainly the price I've been talking about. So we've come to as below as about 9.3. So we've been in this area now where we're kind of sitting here. We have a very harsh move down, so we'll see how my opinion changes when we get there, or when we get to the chart, which obviously will be later on in the stream. I'm going to try today to not spend as much time on Bitcoin as I normally do. I am a monster of a time eater. I'm not the cookie monster, but for time, I just take up all this time speaking about Bitcoin, and I just get carried away. I don't know. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I have no idea, and you guys probably have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about either. It's just words just coming out in a string. Just whatever I'm talking about. So we won't try and do that this time with Bitcoin. We'll try and split it up a bit more evenly. So yeah, let's see how we can go. And, how we can get along, I should probably say. Without further ado, let's go to the chart. Okay, so this is what we have for Bitcoin. So when I left off would have been before, it would be about Thursday time. It would have been around about here, I reckon. Oh, no. When did I stream last? It would have been Thursday, right? It should have been Thursday. So it was around about here. I think I probably streamed somewhere here. We came to here. We were starting to come down. It was somewhere. I recognise some of these moves, though, but maybe I was talking to myself about these in my own head. And, I was thinking about it by myself, so it makes me think that I streamed it, but I don't think I streamed this. I think it was mainly this, and it was coming down a bit here. Basically, the main topic was we've come to the main area here. We've done a new high. We've done really, really well. I want to come down towards these areas down here. 92 on the daily. We have some TA, so just brace yourself. I'm going to click this button, and everything's going to appear. So we have obviously different time frames. We have different TA points, but the main area was this kind of daily gap here, about 92, at least below 93.6 was kind of the main concept. But obviously we had our actual areas. We actually had areas, obviously, when we looked at it, going from Thursday stream to now. Obviously we had some areas going down, which we talked about last time, but it was mainly at least below 93.6. So where those areas were, midpoint of this area at 92.9, it was going to be this this gap was the main area to target for the daily, or it's actually the 4 hour. I think that's what daily, didn't we? Yeah, well, it was just the main daily gap at least 92.5. So the main topic was, as long as we don't print below 92.560, we're good. If we do that, that's not a good sign. But we haven't done that. We're doing absolutely fine. So it's kind of just the amalgamation of the daily gap at least below, obviously, the top end at about 94.5. But when we actually look at the range, we want to go at 93.6, and at most come below, or come to about 92.5. Was the main idea, and as long as we don't print through that, we're fine. So the 4 hour now, we can actually see in a bit more detail. We can obviously see the main gap on the 4 hour being about 92.6, 92.7. We have our previous gap we used, which we've inverted. I think maybe it's on the 1 hour. I don't know why it's that big. I think it's on the 1 hour. Actually, I don't know why it's that big. Should probably log this actually, so I don't move it. Yeah, okay, so 1 hour gap. So we have obviously this previous area, again, resistance to support, whatever. Just trying the idea out of inverse gap here. We had that as another concept. We had a breaker block here as another area. So we have this area, sitting at about 92.3 as a main area, but obviously, at least printing. And the same concept we saw on the daily, where as long as we don't print below 92.5, we're good for that gap. Same concept here, as long as we don't print through 92.740 at this gaps, basically the open of this gap here, we're good to go. And you can see we did really well here. We basically printed right at it, same as this gap here. We printed basically at the top of this gap really, really nicely. Obviously we came lower. Yes, we did come to about the midpoint of this breaker block on the 1 hour. If we go into lower time frames, we can see more and more accurate support points. So obviously that's kind of the thing, it's if I really wanted to get an involved pinpoint accurate low point, I would probably want to go to some lower time frames than just the 1 hour, maybe like the 15 minute. But obviously looking at what we have on the 4 hour and the 1 hour, and then going down. So for example, for the breaker block, it was this candle, this white candle here. But going on the 1 hour, it's actually zooms it into this area. But I'm sure if it goes to 15 minute, we can see something closer, and you can see that midpoint and that actually main area for this low gets closer and closer as we go in more pinpoint. But the main concept being, we don't just use any 15 minute support point. We basically hone in the actual support, which is on the higher time frames. But this, I thought the 1 hour matched better. I don't want to go too low. I'm just going to keep on the 1 hour as our minimum. And that was basically round about where that midpoint was. So just using this area as the main support point. This candle here going down, resistance, and then obviously find support, came upwards, and then used it once more time. So pretty good there, pretty good support. But going back to the main topic at hand, printing at this 92,670 area. So we're doing pretty well. This is what we talked about. What we talked about last time or in last stream. Obviously, I wasn't talking about over here, because I wasn't live, but I was looking at it, and obviously we can talk about it now. So our last stream, we obviously had looked at these two areas here. Obviously, it was around about here was when I put the stream live, or when I was obviously starting to stream about. Oh no, it would be 8 till 9, wasn't it? So it was in this candle as we were moving down, probably. Obviously, the main topic, or not the main topic, I'm saying the same thing. The main concept. You know what, I'm going to zoom this in, actually. It's probably a bit better if I do this. For the main 1 hour gap here. Okay, cool. So yeah, the main idea we had last stream was, okay, cool. We've had a really big move down from a decently high time frame resistance point. If we can start to form supports to resistances and start to reverse these, we'll start to actually have a proper move downwards. So that concept being, printing, obviously starting the downtrend, being printing through lows and whatnot, but also another byproduct of this move down, which kind of conforms to the idea that we're continuing downwards, is going to be printing through what could be support points. If you just look at it on a bare bones level, oh, well, they have a massive gap here, this is going to be support. And yes, we did use it as support over here, for example, within these areas. We did kind of come into it, staying within this area here. Obviously, if we go to some lower time frames, we can see it in a bit more detail, but we came and used it as support. Great. But again, eventually we did, we held on, to be fair, we did hold on. We then printed through it here, printing through a lot, main lows back here as well, which is very important, and printing through this main gap. And you can see we obviously came back upwards, didn't quite get to the midpoint in any regard, but still came back upwards, and then started to not really find anything higher than the midpoint, which, as you can see, before we printed through this, we were kind of sitting in this realm quite nicely. We then printed through, and then wasn't getting anywhere near here. We found resistance. Obviously, we can go to some lower time frames. We could probably find some more closer ranged gaps, but I'm not going to look at that right now. And then obviously from there, eventually continuing back downwards. And this was a very considerable move down. It was a 1 hour candle. 1 hour candle, and it was a 2% move. And it was coming into Monday. It's a very convenient move down. Now, I'm not because normally when I see a move down, it's normally a bit more structured. Now, to be fair, we have had big candles behind us. If we look at some of these candles, we have had some big candles. So, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we can't have big candles ever again for Bitcoin. But these two candles were very drastic. I mean, this whole 2 hour move from about midnight my time, from I'm Central Eastern Standard Time, so my midnight coming into today basically. Resulted in a max move of around about 3.7%, which is quite crazy. So, not saying this is, external, because I did want us to come down, but the rate in which we came down is very, is very punctual. It's very punctual. It happened. It was like boom not on time. Not saying I could predict it at the time, but it was very abrupt. Which is interesting, very interesting. But even this period back here was interesting. We weren't really moving. Basically since we printed below this gap here and came back upwards, this whole period was very interesting. Very peculiar area, I suppose. But anyway, we nonetheless, regardless of how the outcome occurred, we had the outcome. Or regardless of how it came to be, we had the outcome of us coming down towards the areas we talked about. So again, coming to around about that midpoint here, about 91.9, finding that support mainly at the main gap on the 4 hour here at around 92.7. So doing good, coming up slowly into retracing above, or retracing back into the massive expansion we had on the way down. However, obviously, this is such a drastic move down that it's kind of crazy. But if we really look at the daily here, it's not that bad. If we really look at it, like this, even though we've had a 3.7% move down in 2 hours, if you really compare this last move to this last move, is there really much? This move on the up end is actually better than this move, and then this move isn't really any different. So, I don't think, even though we've had this massive down move, it's not that bad. It just went down really fast. It wasn't that bad. It didn't it caused a stir. It wasn't crazy or anything. But again, the main concept we had on the daily was, okay, cool. We've had a low to a high, really structurally sound. We've come up into an actual resistance area for once on the daily. I want to see us kind of retrace. Back below at least 93.6, and then obviously we can go to the lower time frames and look at where we are to find support. So the basis on the daily being between 92.5 and 94.5 for this actual main gap here. And you can see we kind of use that I think we use around about that midpoint quite nicely, close enough actually. But the main thing being not printing below that high wick here at 92.5. So if we keep on doing that on daily and obviously subsequently keep on doing what we're doing on the 4 hour, then it's even though we've come down very far, it's still decently positive. But again, we've only just really done this move, and we've only really just started to have a bit of a move upwards. And I know obviously this spans across 12 hours. So when I say just happened, I don't just mean in the last 15 minutes. It's more about relative to the candles of where we are now. We've only really just started to move back upwards. So in terms of if you can see a resistance more or not, obviously that's something to I think that's the main thing we want to think about now, and probably think about across Ethereum and Solana, as we go on through the stream. So what I'm going to talk about is localized price action versus the general trend we have going on. So localized is going to be within the last move we've had, and to not expect somewhat of resistance. This is the same thing we've been talking about over here, where this necessarily isn't a long-term resistance point. If we look at it based on, because this is obviously on the daily. This is if we look at where we're on the weekly, we're in this massive gap area. We found major support, so we shouldn't be seeing major resistances at this area. But it doesn't mean we can't see resistance as a whole. So what that means is we can compare this scenario we've had where we've come to this resistance on the daily on the 4 hour. We can do the same thing we have on the 4 hour to lower time frames, 1 hour, the 30-minute, whatever it's going to be. Saying where we're not necessarily in a scenario where we are still in an uptrend and we're doing quite well, and we haven't come to a longer term in terms of a major longer term resistance. Yes, obviously on the weekly we have also come into this weekly gap. We were shy of this low, and we still have about 99k here as well. So I mean, again, whether this be a stopping point or not, the daily we have actually turned into a very positive scenario. I mean, comparing this entire price action from about 22nd of November till now, we've actually printed a new high, and we're doing higher lows as well. We've actually this period we've had since 3rd of January, whatever, is the most positive we've been since I mean, again, we did this, obviously this whole thing was very negative, but if you look locally within this kind of range we've had so far, this is the most positive we've been for Bitcoin. Now obviously saying that, we have come to resistance, and this is a weekly resistance, it's a higher time frame, but it's the same thing I've been saying with every coin, basically Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, where we have these local areas where we could see resistance. However, I don't think this is going to be a long-term thing which is going to completely stop us from doing anything going back upwards in the future. So, with that being said, meaning we find resistance in this area on the weekly and we use it. And then we, so for example, we used it on the weekly, we've come upwards and retraced. This actually might be a bit of resistance as well, if we look at it here as a rejection block, but whatever. You can see obviously we've printed a new weekly candle as we're coming back downwards. So we are seeing this, as being used as resistance. We obviously come up in one weekly candle, and then this weekly candle we've actually started to come downwards. So we could start this weekly candle off negative and continue back downwards, and then maybe during the course of flowing through this week till next week, we could start to go back upwards as we see this low form, the open high low close, or open low high close, whatever, of candles being we form our low, and then we go back upwards, find our high, and then retrace for a positive candle. That could happen. So we obviously do need to form our high of this candle, so we could retrace during the week to some higher targets, which would be very nice. But regardless of how that happens, my base point is I don't think this is going to be something which is something which starts a move towards 74k. Because I know a lot of people think 74k. I know a lot of people have been talking about 74k. But even if we just look at the weekly here, just based on what we have obviously have that gap we've talked about here, starting about 86. We have the rejection block here. Actually, I'd probably look at with that wick here, which we could probably go to the daily and look at it a bit more detail, see what we've got going on. It's actually a bit lower down on the daily. But we have the rejection block nonetheless on the weekly, which we kind of use as support, as a general support area, and obviously we've come back upwards. So we do have support here. We do have support here. And, again, a move from where we are to here is obviously still a grand move, a very big move. But it's just talking about the idea that I still don't think it's going to cause us to come down. And if we look relative to what we've been doing, I do want to see us come back upwards. I do want to see us come back upwards. And I don't personally think us hitting this area we've been in at 99, or that we actually missed. We actually didn't hit. I just bring that back. Okay, hold on. There we go. So we still obviously didn't actually hit the entire high area at about 99. We've actually come towards about 97.9. So we didn't quite get to the highs of where we could have got to on the weekly anyway, and on the daily, obviously we did fine on the daily. But I just think this is general resistance, and I think even though this is so negative, I think relative to what we have on the weekly, where we've wanted us to come from all-time highs to here to find support and go back upwards again. I think this is just a rock in the road which bumps the car and we move on. So from that's my high term. That's my high term. I'm still not full negative yet on Bitcoin, but obviously, like I said, now we can talk about some localized for Bitcoin. Then we can move on. Like I do want to move on. Actually, I do want to move on to Ethereum because again, I don't want to spend the entire stream talking about Bitcoin. But I'll do this quickly and then I can look at the chat and see what's going on and then move on. So yeah, like I said, we'll still see resistance here, and what could happen is we do come back upwards into these areas, and we do find another low, and we do come back down one more time. Because again, we can come as low as towards this low with us still being in this range, finding that higher low, and coming back upwards again. Just being below 0.5 is a general rule of thumb, like a compass, to suggest where we can go to. It's not about the number, it's not about the percentage, it's about the location. And what that relates to is the previous price action we've formed. So, like I said, it's not about 0.5, but it's the fact that we have quite a lot of support in this area, which obviously, lo and behold, we've been printing at this. We printed at this area pretty nicely, and we start to go back upwards. But again, same thing I say last stream, we go down until we have reason to stop going down, we start to go upwards. We go upwards until we have reason to go down. And I think this move we've had, and how fast this was, this will be a considerable, I reckon this will be a considerable gap. Looking from where we came from, the speed in which we came to, and what we printed past, I do think we will see somewhat of resistance within this area. It would be very interesting price action if we just gapped this and went right back up towards 96. I don't personally think we'll do that. And if we look relative to the 4 hour, we can start, if we look here, we can start these kind of moves downwards. We can go upwards and start these moves downwards. Because again, here we've had we've been in a downtrend. Even if it's just this move, we've had a considerable low. We've not done any new high, and we've printed one more time past the low. So we are technically in a downtrend on the 4 hour. So I do think we will see this as resistance, 95k, whatever the exact price is going to be. I will look at it in a second, obviously, but I want to look more down here before we move back upwards. So I do think personally, if we do have a bit of retracement, whether that be during the week or whatnot, we could potentially see somewhat of difficulty here. And I think maybe, actually, I'll backtrack. Maybe if the weekly candle will continue to be negatively printing after having a positive print on the weekly. We had a massive high and a massive retracement to obviously form that rejection block, had this massive gap, have this massive area on the weekly candle, which was positive. We've come into an area of major resistance on any time frame on the weekly as well. So I do think we could see negatively printing candle on the weekly. So we could have a negative week. But I do think we still will see a retracement. So whether that did take a day or two, or whatever it's going to take to get into these areas, it could happen. And I do think we'll see resistance somewhere in this range. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly. I mean, I don't want to draw ranges because obviously we just. Okay, actually, what I will do. So technically, within this move, we had this high to a low. We started to print past. We didn't quite print past this low, and then we came up for like a really small high, and then printing past this low. So this move is technically what's starting us in a downtrend. So we technically can draw a range on this. So anything above 93.7 will be in this range. So again, this area here, this 94.5, this whole gap here, we do have this previous price action here. So we have this massive down move here, which kind of come past all these low moves, and then we print through this kind of entire thing here, and then let me get this out. I think I'll draw this here. There we go. So we have this candle. We can see we didn't actually quite print for it actually technically. I should probably say. So it might not be a valid It's technically not valid. It's more valid if we look at some lower time frames. It's more actually technically not valid. It'll technically be down here, which doesn't make sense. We do have it as support because we technically didn't print through that high, so it shouldn't really be used as support. But we do kind of have it. So regardless, I still am going to use that low. All right, maybe I'm cheating, whatever. I'm using this low, so I'm going to draw that there just as a confluential point, I suppose. We had this area back here, for example, which has been used quite commonly, which we've also reversed at this rate, which is about 94.5. So we do have a few points. Actually, it's a bit wider here on the 4 hour. I'll just draw the 4 hour range, to be fair, because it's a bit close. You can see real nice usage, pretty nice there at the midpoint, and then we use its high end very, very commonly, and then print through the whole thing. So this is going to be a balanced price range between this gap and this gap. So technically starting at about 94.2, which is also this point here. For this candle down before we print it back upwards, we use this midpoint alongside this gap, and then we print through it. So that's about 94.2, 94.5. So I do think there's quite a bit of stack resistance. There's a reason to stop. I think there's a valid enough reason to stop within this 94.5 area. So again, we could see resistance here, but technically after forming a downtrend from this move lower to 91.9, and I do think we can see it relatively use this retracement. But I think if we do see retracement and lower, we are still in a wider. If we look at the wider range, I'm got a wisp going. I've got a wisp. Sorry if that's offensive to anyone who has a lisp out there. I don't mean to offend. But if we look at the wider range, we do have that major low to major high on the daily. So I don't care what we're doing on the 4 hour, whether we are in a downtrend, because the higher time frame we're doing fine. So I do think I am still negative in terms of what we have, and I think this we probably will. I think we'll see resistance here. The way we form this, what we have on the way above us, I think we'll see somewhat of resistance. I don't think it's permanent. I don't think it's long-term difficulty. But I think what this means is we have this retracement and move downwards, which allows us to stay in this gap and use it here and use it as a gap. So I think the daily will print fine, the daily will print positively, but I think on the 4 hour we can see that negativity during these daily candles, right? So I do think that retracement towards 94.5, I do think we'll kind of see retracement back up towards this gap. I do think we'll see resistance just on the sheer amount of analysis points which we could look at, or which we have looked at and can use on Bitcoin on the way back upwards. In terms of the next low, then obviously the idea would be we want to come past 91.9, which we could obviously technically see. We do have obviously we had this breaker, but we actually have a normal point here as well. We have this entire move results in coming past this low, and we print higher into above this candle. So if I draw this out, so not only do I have that breaker block, but if you draw this out, you can see this really nice order block here. You can see this move results in us coming past this low here. We see this last down move candle, and the one which actually gets printed through, which is this candle here. If we draw the entire range of this, we can see the midpoint actually. Have I drawn this right? Hold on. No, I haven't. There we go. So you can see the highs were low here. You can see the midpoint's about there. You can see we retrace really nicely. Actually, you know what? Let me zoom in so you can see it. So this is it here. So we have this down move, obviously coming past this low here. We then come back upwards and obviously print through it, and then we use it quite nicely around about that midpoint there, and then we pump upwards. So we do have support there, which is good. So that could be a decent low for Bitcoin, which is about 91k, which obviously I know is lower than 92.5, but it depends on what we do on the daily. So what could happen is we have that retracement, we have that one more move down, and then we have a big retracement, and then maybe a small candle body, positive print, big rejection block coming from an order block, and printing within this gap on the daily, finding support, and then obviously finding a reversal point and actually coming back upwards. So even though we could still see negativity, and whether I'd be right or wrong, obviously not financial advice, even though we could still see negativity, technically in my opinion, I don't think it means we are permanently going to see negativity for Bitcoin, and this is it. It's over. This is what spurred us into a 74k move down, and it's over. I don't think that. So that's what I kind of think. I think so. Leaving off relatively now, I do think we'll slowly maybe see steps back upwards. Whether we see resistance in this gap come down one more time towards 92k, and then go back upwards to 94, I think eventually we will see somewhere at least above 93,632 at that midpoint, and then maybe see one more retracement towards 91.5 or something. And obviously from there, we'll see how we go. But this will take some time to happen. Obviously, we're going to talk again on Thursday. We are doing a stream Wednesday. I think hopefully by the time Wednesday comes around, I might have Twitch integrated into the game, and obviously the game will be fixed a lot better. Obviously, I have been working on it over the past couple of days, so that's going to be exciting news. Hopefully, we will see some. Hopefully, we'll see it be a bit more positive and not laggy, basically, in the game. But anyway, that's my Bitcoin. That's my Bitcoin opinion. Again, keyword opinion. Let me look at the chat, see what's going on, and then we can move on. Let me see. Are we rich or pre-rich? We're pre-rich. We're pre-rich. Showing violence and you will marry supermodels. Exactly. We have kidnapped a bunch of supermodels. They're actually all. Maybe auto moderation might actually think I'm being real and I'm not being sarcastic, and they might actually ban us. So I won't continue with what I was saying. But yes, he is right. Let's see. What are people saying? So we've got red packet. Yeah, brilliant. I'm not doing follow for follow. It's like, are we 5? Oh, follow my Tumblr and I'll follow you back. Come on, man. I've lost some amount during price fluctuation. I want to trade it. Yeah. All right. I'm sorry to hear. Okay, that's basically. And then we come down. Did these candles work? Candles are just like a honey trap. This is all just wasting time. There's no breakout. Brilliant. All right. Okay, great. Let's go to Ethereum. Okay. Ethereum, same thing. So we talked about it. It happened. Great. We had the rejection block. We used it. Obviously, we talked about us coming into that rejection block on the stream, which was probably about here. We did have some support. We talked about this. We did have some, kind of some support, which kind of slowed us down a bit. We did have a gap, yes. Eventually finding that slowdown and that resistance and actually stopping. Again, I did want it to come higher, but this was wishful thinking. Okay, we then corrected ourselves on. We corrected ourselves on Thursday. I said, okay, we have a rejection block here. We have a pretty big gap on the daily, and we haven't printed above a major high yet. We probably will see resistance. We have a massive gap on the daily. If we do see that retracement from 3055 to the high, we do see a retracement back down. This can be our new high. Because technically on this range, even though we haven't done the major high, we have had an uptrend. So I don't know where the range is. I think I have it drawn. Yeah, here it is. So yeah, below 3229, I have a line drawn here for some reason, but mainly that gap, mainly this gap here. I don't have it drawn out because it's messy, but that gap. So again, rejection block, gap on the daily back here, which obviously we've used again. We have resistance. We used it. We're done. Perfect. I'm not going to go over it again because we've talked about it on Bitcoin. Anyways, so same thing. We talked about this. It's happened. Brilliant. So we had some support here. Let me bring this across. So again, support, resistance, support coming to resistance. I don't know what this is actually. I think it's bounce price range. What is this? Yeah, bounce price range on the daily. Okay, cool. So the bounce price range on the daily, which we used really nicely, which is cool. We had this massive gap here, and then we kind of came to this bottom point, which I think was mainly focusing on this point on the 4 hour. You can see we have this gap. We came to that midpoint here, had one more spur upwards, but mainly and ultimately we have this daily gap here, which I'll just draw across one more time. We have this daily gap here, which is ultimately what gets used. Obviously, in this rejection block is resistance. Probably somewhat of formed resistance if we go to the 1 hour. Probably some form of resistance here. We could probably look at this. We have these down close, move upwards above it, and then get printed through. This is a mitigation block. We can draw this mitigation block out, for example. And if we draw this across, you can see we use that quite nicely at the midpoint. So mitigation block is it's basically you take the high and the low of it. And you know what? I can't want to explain it, but mitigation block, that is resistance. We've used it actually really nicely. I didn't mean to. I mean, obviously this is. I probably should have drawn that out on the 1 hour. This is why I want to go to the 1 hour, because again, and this is the thing. I don't want to go to the 1 hour at a random point in the chart and just draw resistances because they might not work. But what gives me more confidence in a lower time frame resistance is when the daily, weekly, and the 4 hour all have resistance in this same area. It just gives more. Pinpoint. So, for example, we are in a daily gap here. We're in a rejection block. We have resistance. We have obviously, I think I have one more. No, we do have one more thing. But what is this? I think this is the weekly gap, which starts at 3354. So we're in that range as well. So we have all these kind of areas right here. So whether we're not pinpoint on the midpoint at 3386 or 3324, we're in resistance. So eventually we're going to see some more resistance, which again, obviously we can see is right about there. So that is very nice. Anyway. And obviously the confluence being we've just came to the top end of whatever this line is. What is this? Oh, right, that's resistance. I don't know why I did the midpoint there, but whatever. We came to that, which is quite nice around about there. So we obviously found resistance there, which is cool. And then obviously came down, finding supreme resistance there very, very nicely. And eventually obviously came down, eventually causing that move downwards. So I'm going to say the same thing. You know, we have printed past major lows with this move. Let me go to the 4 hour here. I'll do this high to this low. So midpoint being above, same thing we saw with Bitcoin. Same concept anyway, towards that midpoint. We do have all the resistance we've already just looked at. Again, you know, we have this bounce price range, which has been support for quite a while. Obviously, eventually printed through it, which we wanted to do. We're going to see this gap as well. We've eventually printed through this entire thing. That midpoint's at 3267. So we do have a lot of confidence, probably on the lower end of this range. On Bitcoin, it's a lot higher up, and maybe we'll see higher up on Ethereum. And there probably will be resistance in this area, which we could look at. You know, let me just quickly look at it again, because most of the tea I do on this channel, if you can tell, is you know, I do it on the spot kind of thing. So we kind of have this down move, which comes into this gap here, and then we print back upwards, and then we've printed through it. So we could potentially see something at this low end here. So I'm going to draw this low out. This sits about 300 as well. So I definitely think within this range here on the lower end, maybe just about coming into this gap, here, will probably be somewhere I target about 300 within this area here. So that's kind of my main target for Ethereum. So what I've talked about with Bitcoin, carry over to Ethereum. The same concept. I'm not going to give the same prices because we didn't really give too many prices because it'll take some time to happen. But same concept with whether I think this is, you know, the be-all end-all of Ethereum or not. Same thing I said with Bitcoin. I don't think it is. But you know, same concept we have with Bitcoin, where I think relative to the relative to this time frame we have, even though on the daily we've printed higher. Actually, have we done that on Ethereum? Yes. Okay. So even though on the daily we've printed higher, and this isn't a downtrend, and this is us just retracing into a daily gap on Ethereum, or on the 4 hour on Ethereum, I should say, we are on a downtrend. So we can still use the ranges as a negative in a positive scenario, because we're on the way down into below 3229, which obviously we've already done, finding that support and eventually, potentially, obviously not financial advice, coming upwards and continuing the move upwards. And eventually using, obviously, these are just areas of just stopping points. Again, going up until we stop, going down until we stop. Same concept. Yeah, that's it. Actually, I'm going to keep it quick now. That's it. That's my, you know what, okay, 300. I haven't done the low end, actually, I should probably say. So let me draw quickly. So I'll draw that low, just we know, 3171, we want to print above that. So we actually came quite close to there. In terms of supports, we have obviously previous areas we've used. We can see we're kind of using that top end here quite nicely. We've already been in these areas. We had we have this kind of inverted gap here, which we kind of use the midpoint for, I suppose. So in terms of the way down, we do have this final gap here at 1,350, and we have obviously this support here. So coming towards maybe 1,350, and we have some supports down here, 1,330. 1,130, I should say, 1,150. So same concept on Bitcoin. We have a tiny bit lower as a low, but I think that will happen relative to the 4 hour, and I think on the daily we will continue to print above 3,171, use its support, and potentially, obviously, continue the trend we're having, and eventually go back upwards and find the highs again and continue going upwards, potentially. Not financial advice. Solana. Let me read the chat again. Let me just see what's going on. Not much on YouTube, which is fine. Let's go to Square. I see a lot of chat. Let's see. We need a clean breakout. What are we breaking out of? Where are we going? I don't know what Mike thinks, but I haven't actually watched this stream. I don't know what Mike's been thinking of what we're doing on Bitcoin, but obviously I've got my opinion anyway. Just like last night, Bitcoin came all the way down. Now it's time for a short to get liquidated. I think so. Bitcoin said, "You guys make strategies. I just go wherever I want to go and don't care." Alright, fair enough, bro. Yeah, you do your thing, bro. Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, Solana. Okay, what do we have going on? So, okay, same concept again and again. We have the gap. We revised on Thursday, which was, oh, I wanted to come to here, and then I was saying on my last stream, I was like, I wanted to come to these areas. Same with Ethereum. I was like, you know what? That's a bit high. So I just drew a closer relative resistance, which was here, which obviously eventually we have used very nicely. Very, very nice. So we had the resistance about Thursday time. We were talking on stream about here. Eventually, we obviously come into some area. Beautiful usage. Found obviously we had previous area of resistance, support, obviously eventually resistance. So this is going to be very useful to remember on the 140 because this we can obviously use as resistance alongside. Previous supports obviously printing through quite nicely, and then we come to a previous area of quite strong support. We can see we formed it, used it very accurately here, wicked back upwards, and then continue to rip very high, about 4-5% up. So very, very good here, very good support point. You can see this is a order block. This whole range here, I should probably highlight this whole range here. There it is. So this whole range here on the 4 hour, this range here, from about 129.5 to about 132, which obviously you can see we're at about 130. So we're in this order block here. We have this gap here. We can see we're printing at very nicely here as well. So very good usage of resistance there, or support here as well. So what I'm going to do, same concept. We've been in this uptrend on the daily as well. We were very close of printing that daily above there, but you can see uptrend wise we've been up, down, and we've printed a new high here. So we've been in this uptrend very high. So we still have this major resistance because, again, technically, importantly as well, this trend upwards, we didn't retrace lower than we need to. So what I did, same thing I've always done with Bitcoin as well, is you just extend the same range higher. You extend the range to the next high. So that equilibrium is now at 134. So we can come, at least anywhere, at least above, below 134 to have that move upwards. And where do we have? We have 129, which we haven't actually came to yet. So same thing we have Bitcoin and Ethereum, where we could come up one more time to this resistance, come down one more time for a new low. Obviously, in this case, for Solana, could be 129, and then go upwards again. Could be what we do for Solana. Anyway, going to quickly on here, we can see we've had this uptrend. We had a low, we had a high, we had this print through. So I'm going to draw it from here. I'll do the most recent high. I'll just do I'll do it from here. I think this is what you're supposed to do here. So we have obviously we have this uptrend. We have us coming to resistance and then gapping away. So you can see we formed that gap which we used twice here. If I draw this out, you can see there's a very tight gap here which you used very, very nicely. So you see we come into resistance, we form a rejection block into this gap on the daily. We can see we use that rejection block very nice at the midpoint, come down, form gap on the way down. We use it once, finally print through this low here, come up for a higher low, or for a lower high here, after coming to support, which we have over here. You can see we form that there, come up one more time. We actually did form this as support here, which you can see we kind of hovered at a tiny bit, but again, we've just reversed. We've just printed through this, and we've just come from a higher time frame resistance. So again, let's do some Dora Explorer stuff, guys. Are we going to want to see support at a point where we've just seen high-term point of interest resistance? No, we're not, okay? So we form it. We did try to use it, eventually printing through. Perfect, fine. So we have not only is that low at that resistance, so we have a stack at about $140, which is also well above that equilibrium. So I'm just going to stop speaking right there. I do think we'll see that retracement just as we see with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And if I'm wrong everywhere. Not financial advice, I should say. But I definitely think at least above 138. So somewhere within this gap, which again, we have a lot of confidence towards about $140. Sitting basically at $140. We have the midpoint of this support, which was resistance, which is now resistance again. We have this resistance, which is at the low about 140, and we have this major gap as well, and we have this retracement. Perfect, fine. So from there, I do think we can come down one more time. 12850. We have this major daily gap here, which we haven't come into yet. And remember, we have this low to a high. We do want to see a major low somewhere about 129, and then continue back upwards. Because again, remember, we are in a weekly higher time frame, very high time frame support point. So bear that in mind. And this is what I was saying with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Same thing I'm saying with Solana. Even though right now we might see negativity, I do still think we have this positivity still going on. So I do think we can reach higher for Solana. I do think Ethereum can reach higher. I do think Bitcoin can reach higher. But obviously, Bitcoin maybe go to where we've already come to. But I definitely think Solana and Ethereum could reach a tiny bit higher. We will see. Obviously, not financial advice. We'll get there when we get there. It's not going to happen until, this isn't going to take until Thursday to happen. Coming up to some major weekly higher time for things. This will take some time to happen. We'll talk about it as we continue the streams going into the future. But as I've seen it right now, relative to the 1 hour, 4 hour, I do see that retracement to resistance, and I do see that us coming back down 127, 128, wherever the exact price is, or wherever we should exactly see on the daily for this gap. That's my relative range. So from there, I guess I'll go to... We have 16 minutes, and I've got Syrup and Crow to look at. I have absolutely whizzed through this, but I think it's been very, very... I think it's been very efficient. Let's see, what were people saying? I'm new user to your analysis self. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm glad I could be helped. Again, the main thing I always say, it's not financial advice. Okay? It's just my opinion. And if you don't think my opinion's correct, that's okay. You know, because maybe I'm wrong. And you know what? I can be wrong. Just like most people can be wrong. Some people can be right. It's more about how well you get it right, or how many times you get it right, and how well you utilize that. If you get it right once out of 10, make sure you've got really good risk management. That's kind of the main thing, isn't it? Yeah. If you don't get it right, if you only get it right very occasionally, but that right results in a massive move or a very profitable move, just have good enough what's it called? Risk management is what I should say. Yeah, I'm from the UK. You might be able to tell with the voice and whatnot. Syrup. I've got congestion. I don't know if it's affecting the way I sound. I'm gonna drink some water before we continue. But I'm gonna take it a bit slower now because we've got 15 minutes and I've got 2 coins I wasn't really planning to spend too much time on. So I'm gonna take my dilly-dally time with this. Take my time. Go through this leisurely, okay? Have a conversation. Let's take our time, okay? So, syrup. What have we been talking about? Well, we've been talking about, if you are new to this here anyway, what we've been talking about, let me hide this quickly. We've been talking about this area here. So let me have a little sip of water. There we go. So, weekly. On Thursday, I should say. The weekly, we've been talking about this gap, okay? We've been talking about us coming into this area, finding resistance, all right, and coming back down. That is the main thing. So again, same concept. You know, we have a weekly resistance. We can just use the weekly resistance and bet on the idea that we can find resistance anywhere between 31 and 43 cents. That's a bit wide of a range. I don't want to do that. So what we can do, we can just go to some lower time frames. And within this, we see one major gap here, and then one major gap here. And what you might notice about that is the fact that we had one major gap, came up, found resistance, and we had another major gap, and continued up to it, which is quite nice. So we had, you know, I forgot about that. Okay, whatever. I mean, this one was a bounce price range. This is different. This is a stack. I'd use a different one. But we had one major range, came into, found resistance. But we have support here, came upwards one more time. To our top end, found resistance, we're coming down. So the main topic has been coming up to anywhere above equilibrium, which is somewhere at least above 37.1. And that main area, you know, Dora the Explorer. Guys, look at the screen. Where can you see? You know, what box can you see on the screen? What can you see on the screen right now? Above this red line at 37. This red line here. What can you see? No, not this red line, but technically this red line. This 37. What can we see? Well, what do we have? Well, we have this green area, okay? It's highlighted very nicely. You know, you might be able to see it. It's on a black background. It's green. It's here. And what do we have? Well, we have the low end of it, about 39. We have the high, 43. We have the midpoint. The midpoint is, you know, just an arbitrary area to have main focus on. Obviously, we can go to the 4-hour, we can go to the daily, we can find more pinpointed areas in here, but I can't be bothered. The daily's good enough for me, okay? So we look at it, what would we have? We have a very nice usage, actually, because sometimes they get used really nicely, sometimes it's not accurate. But we have a very, it's like on the dot. It's like on the dot. Maybe off by 0.00002 pennies. We use that high real nicely, and now we start to come down. Importantly, we've just printed through this range here. So this was support. We used it support, flipped it, uses resistance a small bit here, and then flipped it, found resistance, flipped it again. This is now going to be resistance again. So this is very good. We've printed through it. We were coming upwards. We'll probably find resistance. We'll continue downwards. Obviously, we do have support here. And yes, we have been in an uptrend. But there's a difference here. And I know I've said this with Bitcoin as well, where technically we do have 98K as a weekly resistance. But relative to what we have on the weekly, which is we want it to come deeper and deeper. We want it to come down. We want it to come through these areas. We've been in a downtrend. We want to see it retrace from a high to a low, come upwards. The difference is with Bitcoin, we want to see it come down to go higher. On Syrup, we want to see it go higher to come lower. There's a difference. So that's why it's down a bit more negative. Because we've been in the downtrend. We've been wanting this downtrend to happen. Within this range has been a downtrend. This entire range has been an uptrend. You can see that the move upwards and then to move downwards for a higher low to move upwards again. So the range we've had since, you know, 30th of June 2025. Okay, this down we've had, we want to see it. We want to see it come up again to go down even lower. So same concept we've been using the entire time on the way downwards. Same concept here. We want to see, even though on the daily, yes, on the daily we are in an uptrend. And yes, we have used these ranges. We have used these ranges where we've come up to the high and come to the equilibrium at the gap and come upwards. Perfect. Yes, fine. But there'll be a time and place in history where this will stop because we're starting to reverse. And why do these things break? And a lot of the time this will happen on whatever strategy you use. Sometimes it breaks because of a different time frame. Now I know price action's the same. Obviously price action is fractal. It's all the same price. The price doesn't change on different time frames. It's just a different way of viewing the price action relative to what we have. So on the 15-minute, this chart's going to look a lot different to what it is right now. But sometimes it's just relative. It's not just about what you use. Sometimes you have the best strategy in the world. It's just about how you use it in what context. So in this case, it's perfect. Our context is we are coming down to go higher. Whether that be within the downtrend we've had since June 2025 or the entire history of syrup, we've wanted it to come down to some deeper prices to then go to all-time highs. That's what we wanted, and that's what we're doing. Same thing here. We want to use that context which we just looked at, which is we are in a weekly gap, we're in this daily gap, we want it to come upwards towards about 42 cents and then go lower. Same thing here. I can just leave this off really, and this is what I was going to do. Before I realized I had 15 minutes, I was just going to say, yeah, we've come down, we've come upwards, we've come to the area we've targeted. We talked about this on Thursday. We're coming down, we'll continue to come downwards. We've printed through this gap. We're going to use it as resistance. We're going to continue downwards. That's what I was going to say. But now I've got 15 minutes. I'm going to pad it out a bit. You know what I mean? So yeah, same thing. This is what I'm saying. Our context and our price action are joined. They are in unison, which is perfect news for us. It means we're correct. We are doing perfectly fine with syrup. We want this to happen. I want this to happen. If you don't want this to happen, obviously I'm sorry, because it is happening. If you are in a long, depends obviously what time frame on a long you are. Because obviously people say, oh, don't be in a long. It's like, okay, well, it depends on what time frame on a long you are. We could see, like here, we could have a little bit of a relief. We've come upwards, we've come down. We from this low, we are technically in this gap here. We could have relief where we come upwards again into this gap, for example, at 38 and then come down. So people say, oh, you can still be in a long and you still be in a downtrend, because it depends on what you're trading and on how long you're trading for and what leverage you're trading for. There's nuance. It's not just don't do this, don't do it. It's it's like, okay, you can do it. Obviously, if you know what you're doing, you can do what you want. But it's just relative. So even though right now I'm not going to say get out of a long, it depends on what you're doing. Because what we could do is we found us using this low, this gap at 3365 here in this gap. We've still used it as support. Same thing here. Same thing we've seen with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, which is, even though we want to be in a downtrend right now, sorry, I'm congested as hell. I just swallowed my saliva the wrong way, and it's causing me to shut down. Okay. Even though we're supposed to be in a downtrend right now, we can still use these areas which we formed all the way upwards as support points, which can allow us to go upwards for small periods of time. So same thing here. We have this gap. We have this gap here. We're at the bottom end of it at 3350, whatever. We can still use it. We can then come upwards, but it's more likely going to be a scenario where we have a small little high here, and then we continue back downwards. Not financial advice, but you know what I mean. But again, this is just us doing our thing. We've wanted. This is just what it is. This is just what it is. This is our move. This is normal. Okay. So from there, we want to see it at least below 24. I want it to come into this area here. 21.6 has been the main price. 22-ish. This midpoint of this major support on the weekly. This midpoint of this gap, this is kind of the main stack area I personally see for syrup, about 22-ish cents. This has been my main target. This was my main target since here. I was like, because I remember seeing this at the time, I was like, oh, why have we gone up so fast? Because I thought, oh, we've come upwards, come down, here we go. No. Because this isn't, and this is what confused me. And you might, if you're in my stream, you're an OG, but first off, and if you do remember this, you've got a good memory, because I remember this exact moment, because I remember talking about this. I was like, we've had a low. Now I don't think, I can't remember exactly what I said, to be fair, but I remember it rubbing me the wrong way because we didn't have support. There's no support here. There's nothing going on. Why have we had, this isn't going to be our major low. And I didn't want to say, because I was, you know, at the time I was like, are we really going to see a high to whatever and then come back down again? Are we going to see this? But, you know, at the moment I was like, okay, are we really going to see this be our major low? We don't have any reason to stop here. Lo and behold, you know, we eventually come down. And we've come up again. But again, I do think we can come down one more time and find our reason. Because again, even in here, yes, we are in the top end of this support. But the major reason I wanted to come down here, look at this entire move upwards and tell me, what do you see? Nothing here. Just look for voids. Look for things I've highlighted. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. It's only here. You know, if I just scratch all this off, it's here. And it's this. This is all we have on syrup. This is all we have on syrup. This range here. Actually, let me draw the range properly. This is the range. This. And we've not quite got there. And I think we're going to come down one more time. Looking at this move, this massive, massive down move. Slow move upwards. We're going to have another massive move downwards. 22 cent, 21 cent. That is the target for syrup. And that's the history of what I've been talking about. There you go. Maybe the chat. Go to my pin post. No. Santa Vedoff, what's up? Crypto Warehouse, what's up, man? Thank you for joining the stream. You're 5 minutes from the end, but thank you for being here. You know, I like the enthusiasm. I like the enthusiasm of being here. Thank you. Let's see what else is going on. See some hellos. Trading Queen, hello to you. Good afternoon. Or good morning, obviously, depending where you're from. Hello to you guys. Thank you for joining. Again, you've joined a bit late, which is fine. Yeah, it's fine. You know, sometimes you just have a little 5-minute test. You go, this guy's awful. I hate his voice. I hate how fast he speaks. I hate everything. And I'm going to leave, which is fine. Because you're at the end. So, you know, you don't have to stay for that long. So, Syrup, or Crow, I should say. I've somehow spent 12 minutes on Syrup. I'm very impressed because there's not normally that much to talk about. Crow, I'm going to glance at it. 3.5 minutes. We're going to end on time. We're going to do it, guys. We're going to do it, guys. We're going to do it. We're going to end on time. I'm new to crypto, brother. I want to earn. Well, yeah, I mean, welcome to crypto. Yeah, it's a messy place around here. If you want to earn, I don't know what advice I have to you. I don't have any financial advice because I'm not licensed. It's all personal opinion. I don't know. Buy and hold, I guess. Buy Bitcoin and hold it. Hold it for a while. Depends how fast you want to make the money. To be fair. Yeah, I mean, if you want to actually have any high chance of earning anything, I would say just buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana and hold it. Or buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, and hold it. You know, that's my personal opinion, not financial advice. Anyway, Crow, what we've wanted me to do. Water. This happens. Spaghetti comes out, and I need a bit of water. Okay. Okay. What do we have? So, same thing here. We had this massive run up from a higher time frame support point. We had a very high move, very low move. We had a support point down here. We actually used it, which was nice. We pumped upwards, and on the lower time frames, we actually printed past some of these highs. We had this kind of move down, high, smaller, higher, low here, high, and then move downwards finally. So we kind of have these highs here, and then a major low, and then we have this high here, and then we wick past these lows. Obviously, we're in support here. We bump upwards, printing past this high, printing past this high. So I wanted to see it retrace towards these areas at about between 94 and 97. Obviously, being somewhere in the midpoint, around about average, about 95 cents, or 9.5 cents, I should say. So we can see, obviously, our wick low was about 93, but you can see we're printing very nicely at this 94. So what we have to do with Crow is we have to print above 94 and start to reverse and go upwards. Is what we have to do. We do have quite a bit of resistance here, you know. And Crow, I'm never really that positive. Crow, I don't like looking at Crow. Crow is probably the worst thing to look at. You know, on charts, I don't really like looking at Crow at all. So what we have to see is going to be us. Is we're going to have to actually come upwards and start to print past some of this. We could do that, we might not, but we're doing well. So you know what? Again, it's actually 9 o'clock now. Even though our time says 1 minute, it's 9 o'clock, which is, or my time 9 o'clock, which is actually when we want to end the stream. So again, I promise to end on time. So Crow, we've done well. We've had a massive move upwards. We've retraced the support. We're here we come. Here we come, 13 cent. Here we come, 13 cent. Here we go. Not financial advice. Not financial advice. Anyways, that's it. That's it from me. It's pretty much dead on 9, which is very good. I'm very impressed. I don't want to say impressed with myself because that's a bit self indulging, whatever. But I've finished on time. Okay, we've finished at 9. I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. Thank you for being on the stream. If you spent 50 minutes, 5 minutes, anywhere in between, thank you. I will be back on Wednesday. So obviously, it's Monday today, Tuesday tomorrow, then it's Wednesday. We'll be back on Wednesday with Mike because we are doing a quiz. Now, I've been working on the past few days, I've been working on the quiz to make, number one, the actual quiz be better and not laggy. Because then, even though it is YouTube, I've been going over the code again to make sure there's no pesky little errors. And I've also been adding a system where we can look at YouTube and Twitch at the same time. And I do have great plans to involve Binance Square in the game. So we can have people playing from Binance Square, people playing from Twitch, and people playing from YouTube. The reason we added Twitch, great question. I think we were kind of on it. We were on a crypto Twitch stream, and we realized how crypto on Twitch was actually, you know, it's getting a bit bigger, and there's actually people streaming there. So we thought we might as well stream there. You know, some people streaming there, so we might as well stream everywhere we can. So we'll have some Twitch. We're gonna have YouTube. I do want to include Binance Square in the quiz and have people be able to play from Binance Square. I think that would be great. So we'll see how well that works. Obviously we can't promise anything, but at least we have YouTube and Twitch. So yes, that will be some new updates. Hopefully by Wednesday. Hopefully I'll get everything done by Wednesday. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I will see you back on Wednesday. If you don't like that, and you don't like the idea of our quiz, and you hate it, and you just want to see the charts again, I'll be back on Thursday, and we can have a look at how we went and how well it's all happened, I suppose. So thank you again, all of you. See you next time. See you in Telegram if you're there. Have a great week. If I don't see you until later on in the week, have a great week so far, the first few days of the week or whatnot, until I see you next time. Thank you. And yeah, take care, good luck, and goodbye.